On Sunday, I explained why a knee gets stiff, how the lining inside the joint inflames, and how the capsule, the tough bag around the knee, tightens and hardens over the years until the knee will not fully straighten. Almost as soon as that video went up, the same question came back from many of you. A fair question, an honest one. Can that be undone? If the capsule is tightened, can a stiff knee be loosened again? I am going to answer that honestly today because part of the answer is yes and part of it is no. And the difference between the two is the most useful thing I can tell you. The mistake is to treat stiffness as one thing. It is not. There are two kinds and they behave completely differently. The first is an active process. The lining is inflamed. The capsule is in the middle of tightening. It is still happening right now, this month. Think of it as a fire that is still burning. The tissue is being actively pulled tighter by the inflammation driving it.
The first is an active process. Inflammation drives an active fire, making the tissue pack tighter, significantly narrowing.
The second is what that fire leaves behind. When the tightening has gone on for years, the capsule does not just tense, it lays down scar. It hardens into a fixed, shortened band, a settled contracture. The fire has gone out, but the damage has set, like a scar on the skin that no longer hurts but no longer stretches either.
The second is what that fire leaves behind.
An active fire can be calmed. A settled scar is far harder and may not let go at all. So, when you ask whether a stiff knee can loosen, the real question underneath is which kind of stiffness is yours? And in most knees, it is some of both. Now, a fair doubt. The capsule is a tough, fibrous bag. How would any treatment placed in the knee even get to it? Two ways. And both are real anatomy, not hope. The first is that the capsule and the lining share a wall. The lining I spoke about on Sunday is not something separate from the capsule. It is the inner face of that same bag. So a biological treatment placed into the joint space sits directly against the inner surface of the capsule. It does not have to travel far. It is already touching it.
The first is that the capsule and the lining share a wall, meaning the treatment doesn't have to travel.
The second route comes from outside. The capsule has its own blood supply, a ring of small vessels that wrap around the knee and feed the bag itself. Doctors call them the genicular vessels. That word is worth a second. The Latin for knee is genu. From it we get genicular, meaning simply of the knee. The same way coxa, the hip, gives us coxal, and cubitus, elbow, gives us cubital. Genicular of the knee. So the genicular vessels are nothing more than the knee's own vessels, the supply line into the capsule. So the capsule can be reached from both sides at once. From inside the joint through the wall it shares with the lining and through its own blood supply from around the knee. That is why it is treatable at all. Here is where I will be precise with you because this is exactly where false promises get made. The active part, the inflamed lining, the capsule that is still tightening, the fire that is still burning, that can be calmed. The inflammation can be brought down. The active drive towards more stiffness can be slowed and in many knees halted. That is real and it is worth having because every month of active tightening you prevent is range you keep.
The active part. That can be calmed.
But the settled scar, the hardened, established contracture, I will not promise to dissolve.
But the settled scar, I will not promise to dissolve.
No injection melts mature scar. Anyone who tells you a knee stiff for many years will be made fully supple again is selling you something I will not sell. We calm what is still active. We do not promise to reverse what is already set. And remember, the blood sugar that drives the whole process, the sparks I described on Sunday, sits underneath all of this. If that is still running high, the fire keeps being relit, which is why that part is checked first and managed with your own doctor before we treat the knee at all. Put those two facts side by side, and the whole thing turns on timing. The stiffness you treat early while it is still active, still inflamed, still fire, and not yet scar is the stiffness you can still change. Wait, and the fire quietly does its work, and the active process you could have calmed becomes the settled scar you cannot. The stiffness you treat while it is still active is the stiffness you can still change. Waiting lets the fire become scar. So a knee that is stiffening now is not a knee to watch for another year. It is a knee where there is still something to protect.
A knee that is stiffening now is not a knee to watch.
So, can a stiff knee loosen? Honestly, the active part can be calmed and its worsening slowed or stopped. The part that has already turned into scar may not let go, and no one honest will promise you that it will. But that is not a reason to wait. It is the opposite. It is a reason not to. If your knee is tightening, if it is slow in the mornings, tight after sitting, quietly losing the last bit of straightening, that is the moment it is still active. That is the moment there is still something to keep. The full reasoning and the markers we check before we treat any knee are in our 12th April video linked below. And if you have not yet seen Sunday's video on why the stiffness begins, start there.